brought up this site that has some really good advice about test taking strategies. I've got a Zoom session going for us for quick. We'll quickly look at that study guide real fast before you guys have lab time. So I think this is like a Mormon site or a homeschool site based on the ads that are popping up, but that's all right. They have some really good advice. They have to take tests, you know, to prove that they've been doing work at homeschool. So good advice for us. Be prepared. That one can be hard for us for a certification exam. You guys have been preparing for 2 semesters for this exam. So summarize your information. Look at summaries. Drill down into areas that are your weak points. Research those areas. Spend time doing that. Don't pop in here just to take that test without preparing. I know none of you would. But it's kind of a high stakes thing. If you've ever heard that term before, that means that it's something that has an impact on your overall career and future. It's not going to be the end of the world, but it can help things if we're successful. Get here a little early, take some time to relax, get yourself situated, you know, something to drink, eat your food outside, but bring your drink in, however you want to handle it. Get relaxed. Listen to the last minute instructions. Some study resources suggest that it's better to arrive on time to avoid brain pickers, students who ask questions right before a test, but they disagree. They say there's more to be gained by arriving a little early. And I know that last semester with the MTA Java exam, which is much different than the one we'll be taking, I gave out a really short study guide that summarized the native data types, you know, the Java 1 intro stuff. And I noticed the people that looked at that material passed, and the people that didn't, because it was old material that they had forgotten. And so if they didn't do that quick little review beforehand, so it had a huge impact on them. Listen attentively to last minute instructions. I'll be reminding you of things like trust your instincts, read the question carefully, don't get distracted. Don't get distracted by a question that contains information that you don't know. Don't let yourself get upset by those things. Okay, do a memory dump. I can give you a piece of paper. You can bring your own writing utensil. You cannot bring your own pieces of paper to write notes on. I can give you some. So you can do a memory dump if you want to and just write down a bunch of things like, you know, byte data type is 1 character, or however you want to put it. An integer takes up this many bytes, whatever information you want to write down. Read the test directions carefully and watch for details. Plan how you're going to use the time. We'll have about 45 questions or 40 questions in our 45 minutes. So you can come up with a strategy. Are you going to go through all of the questions and mark the ones that you are not sure about to go back to? Are you going to be able to do that? We have to look at the actual test when it comes up to see if they'll let you go backwards. Normally, they'll let you mark questions to go back to. But, you know, if the test doesn't allow you to do that, then you're going to want to adjust your strategy to spending more time, more emphasis on each question before you leave it. So it's going to depend on the test. Look for cues. If 2 answers are similar, they're usually not the correct answer. Pay attention. This is a really big one for us. Pay attention to grammatical matching between the question being asked and answers. If an answer seems right, but doesn't match grammatically with the question, it probably isn't correct. Look for cues from other questions. The other day when we were looking at the study guide, 1 question answered the other 2. And so that can be the case often for us. Answer all the questions. If you're running out of time, click through, mark an answer. You have a chance of getting something right if you mark something. Otherwise, you don't. So increase your eyes. Maintain a positive attitude. The first time I took a certification exam when I started teaching, I was really nervous, and I had to drive from Carthage up to Springfield to take the exam. And I took it at the airport, and the room they put me in was this little teeny room with the computer that was right in front of this window. And right outside the window, there were like 7 or 8 guys working on the building. And so they were tearing pieces off the building and hammering and nailing and being a little bit distracting, a lot more than a little bit. The very first question I read was a fill in the blank. You won't get any of those. But it was a fill in the blank, and I had no idea. I didn't have any idea what the answer was. So I was pretty stressed. I started losing confidence, and I started wasting time thinking about how these guys were distracting me, and I wasn't going to pass this exam because of them. So don't do that. That's a bad thing. When I was able to just focus and say, well, if these guys distracting me so much keeps me from passing this exam, I'll complain about there being this huge distraction. I need to just focus and get this test taken and get it done. And it was fine, and I passed, even though I didn't know that first question. So if you have no clue like that, make an educated guess. If it will not count against you, as far as we know in the MTA, it won't. Lastly, disregard patterns. It's probably a coincidence if a string of multiple choice answers that you know are correct are A. Don't be looking for ABC, CBA, some sort of pattern like that. There normally is not such a thing. Sometimes we start getting lottery minded when we're taking exams. If I just answer C. So those are really good suggestions. Some others. Have something to eat. Make sure that you're not hungry. Make sure that you're not cold, tired, all of those things. Don't stay up until 4 in the morning studying. You're better off to put those notes on top of your face and go to sleep. So I know you won't absorb the material, but it'll still be better for you. Okay, so what about OneNote? Let's use it. I brought up this OneNote document that I created last semester, looking at those MTA study notes. So this one already has some tabs. The first tab you should go ahead and create, and it was that section careers and job roles of the study guide, kind of before it actually started. So the notes that I put for that section are just overview. You might want more, you might want less. That the MTA certification was for entry level, and the MCTS is an intermediate level certification. So if you remember that chain of certifications from that document, these are the two. Speaking of which, we could open that document. I'll go to Canvas. And bring up our modules. And I'm going to scroll down to the MTA prep, preparing for your exam. And I want this MTA exam study guide again. This is the same one we looked at last time. Now, because it's a PDF, if you wanted to, you could download it. You could save it somewhere so that you didn't have to go through Canvas every time to find it. It's up to you.
Where is it located again?
In Canvas, it is in the MTA section. It says MTA preparing for your exam.
Okay.
And so it's this blue link that says MTA exam study guide. That's the one. And you could save it. So I guess I'm going to download it. It's MTA_SSG for Student Study Guide. I'll put it in my downloads folder. And then in my OneNote, I could actually create a new tab call it study guide. And then I could insert that document that I just saved. Let me go to my downloads folder and bring up that document and just drag it into OneNote. And I want to insert a printout of it so that I can see every page. Takes it a second. Do you find it? Yeah, it's SSG, MTA underscore SSG. It's got a weird file name. It's taking mine a while. It's breaking one.
It'll take it a while.
It's got a few pages.
It takes my PowerPoints about 4 or 5 minutes usually. So.
Do you like having them loaded into OneNote?
Oh yeah.
Does it help you keep your notes good?
I actually have, I'm gonna be honest, I've never tried OneNote before, but I'm really considering it.
It seems
If
very
you've got a lot of
helpful.
school left to do it. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a lot.
It's very helpful.
I wish she had made us do it in one. But that's all right. I've kind of
I need to make everybody do it. It's just like different places I jump around.
Yeah.
It takes
I've
forever.
got to make sure I get it all at home to have access to it.
Even though my dad doesn't do code much anymore, he actually finds it really useful that they still offer those things, because even with what he does, he still likes having it handy.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, I really had never seen it before coming here. And then when I went to that last Visual Studio conference in March, everyone was using it. At least everyone that was under 35 or so. So pretty important tool.
My dad just uses that just so he can keep track of schedules and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's taking forever here. So what could we do while this is happening? I feel like we need to do something.
We can still go over to the.
Yeah, let's go back to it and just.
Well, it takes its time.
Good idea. We'll get our stuff done anyways. We won't be able to put many notes in. We'll go back and do our notes as follow-up. So we're on chapter 2, Understanding Object-Oriented Programming, which is the kind of red one. It starts on page 13 of the PDF. I'm just going to scroll down. You know page numbers are never matching, right? Oh, got done. I want to see what it looks like in OneNote.
No, nicely yours is done.
Oh, it's sideways. Since it's that PDF document, it's all sideways.
Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks.
It does.
Yeah, it went sideways.
So what are you rotating?
I don't see one. I'm looking at. Does not seem like it, so maybe we won't want to insert that PDF document, but let's go back to it anyways. Okay, so you guys that weren't here last time, what we're doing is we go through this document. Each section presents some different scenarios for us to look at and some questions, and so we're going around and reading the scenarios and discussing the questions before we look at the answers to make sure that we have a good understanding. So this very first one that's on page 15 in the red, Nick, have you found it? Can you read for us? Since you didn't get to read last time. Mm-hmm.
Tailspin Toys is developing a simple robotic dog for small children. The dog will connect to a computer via a USB cable, and kids will be able to use a simple application to personalize the toys of their liking. Although the hardware is nearly complete, Tailspin has not yet created the software that owners will use to customize it to a dog. Victor has been hired to begin work on the software. Initially, Victor will need to design a class to present the dogs. Naturally, the class will be named dog. The toy, and therefore the dog class, will need to keep track of the dog's name, age, and gender, and it will be able to bark, walk, wag its tail, and sit, so far against breaking teacher code. Which of the following would be property in the dog class?
Is that,
I
do you
think it'd
agree?
be-
Name or
Yeah,
bark? What do you guys think?
I think it's name.
So a property is data, right? So looking at our code,
Those three names, the only one.
if those three names the only one.
And the
Yeah,
dog.
and of course, they're not following some of the suggested rules about casing and things like that. Remember, they can do whatever they want, which makes it a little confusing.
Yeah, and I think one reason it definitely wouldn't be bark
Uh-huh,
is because bark is what it does.
bark is what it does,
Yeah,
right?
that's the verb.
It's a verb. What about number 2, Nick?
To create a dog with a different name, age, or gender, Victor should add another constructor, more properties, information.
What do you guys think? It's kind of vague. What do you think?
Another constructor.
Another constructor? That sounds good. What about number 3?
Which line of code correctly creates a new dog in C#? Dog Q equals dog new, dog Q equals new dog Q equals dog.
What say you?
Maybe B.
B? Perfect. Let's see. I did. Name another constructor and B. Perfect. Now they have some great details here. These are some things, these bullets, since we're not super successful at importing this into our OneNote, these bullets would be great note points. It's got some essential details here for us. An object often represents something from the real world. Verbs are typically methods. Attributes, like nouns or adverbs, are properties or fields. A field is a variable defined with a class. A property provides a simple way to access the data stored in a field. A class is like a blueprint. Multiple objects can be created from a class or instantiated. Similarly, many houses can be built from one blueprint. Objects are instantiated or created with the new keyword. So looking at my OneNote, I had a tab for object-oriented programming. And I don't have much of those kinds of things, so I could just add notes from the study guide. And I'll copy this in. And of course, is it going to copyright either? I'll go home and say, oh, you're a bulleted list. Nope, not good. You're going to have to mess with it. That's good anyways, because, of course, that might work better if I got that. I got them all. It's better for you to actually type the information into your OneNote document, or at least play with it, touch it a little bit, make sure it's properly formatted, to read through it repeatedly. So some of this information is like a really old friend, right? The more we're around it, the more we're going to know about it. So however we have to get that into our heads, whether it's typing it ourselves or reading it out loud to ourselves to a mirror or whatever, that'll work. Okay, next one, understanding inheritance. Taylor, can you read it for us?
As Salesman Toys continues to develop its robotic dog toy, early marketing tests reveal its customers like to choose from different breeds of robotic dogs. As a result, Salesman has decided to create 3 variations: a poodle, a bulldog, and a golden retriever. The company has indicated that they will consider adding additional breeds in the future. The breeds will have a set of common attributes and behaviors, but each breed may have some unique capabilities. This presents some challenges for Victor as he designs the software children will use to customize the dog. He doesn't want to write all the code 3 times, once for each breed. He also doesn't want future programmers to create new breeds that are not compatible with his original design. Since Victor realizes that a poodle is a dog, and the same is true of the other breeds, Victor decides to use the inheritance. In Victor's new design, poodle, bulldog, and golden retriever are all C-derived class.
You guys all agree?
Agree.
Good. Okay, number 2.
To allow breeds to reuse code and help ensure that future breeds are compatible, dogs could be declared as abstract.
Does that sound right?
Yep.
Good.
Which of the following are not going to be inherited by the 3 derived class? A, constructors.
Does that sound right? Very good. Okay, so let's look at some of the key points here. We have kind of some terminology in this one. Inheritance allows you to create classes that reuse, extend, and modify behavior. Derived classes inherit. Use the is a test to see if inheritance is appropriate. An abstract class cannot be instantiated. Interfaces are similar to abstract classes, but they don't have to adhere to the ISA guideline. That's kind of information we haven't really seen anyplace else. So it kind of pops out. So if Tailspin did decide to make robotic spiders, Victor could create an interface that both dogs and spiders could implement. Perhaps it would be called iRobotic. So it's kind of like the ticketing application or the packaging application that you're looking at, where they all use the interface that requires the calculate cost method, even though they're different types of packages. Okay, so add that into your notes if you want. The other things that I had in my notes here for inheritance, found a little picture of some people inheriting. And I made some notes about those different access levels that we were looking at in that code last time. Protected is accessible by our child classes. And an interface, another definition, that it declares the methods and method signatures of required methods. So yeah, we got that. And then this is our code, right, for inheritance. So you guys are super good at that. Got it. Yay. How about polymorphism, Jim?
Victor's work with Tailspin Toys robotic dogs is progressing well. He knows that his software for personalizing the dogs will be popular with customers. Victor feels that his basic class design ideas are good, and he's ready to think about the details as long as the engineers and marketers stop making changes. That's never going to happen. Victor knows that while all dogs share some common behaviors, such as barking, that bark may be very different from one breed to the next. The bark method he creates for a poodle will need to be different from the bark method he implements for a golden retriever. Excuse me. In his dog class, he has created a few methods. Here are the headers written in C#. Public void bark, public void wagtail, public void walk. To be able to override these methods in the derived class, what modifier should Victor add to all 3 headers? Virtual.
Virtual.
Yeah, he's going to use
Good.
virtual.
Very good. What about number 2?
How can Victor invoke the bark method in the dog class from within a derived class?
Is it B or C?
B would definitely work. But if he's in the other class, he would need to do base.
Base?
I'm thinking C.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be for static. What should Victor do if he wants the
Good.
bulldog class to just use the walk method from dog?
What do you think about that one?
I think B,
You still have to-
B still has to be in there
still has to be in
if it's
there.
been marked virtual, right? Or else we get in trouble.
No,
And it said C.
No need to call base.walk if a derived class does not override an inherited method. The base classes method will automatically be used. What keyword is it that makes that not true, where we would have to implement that method in that
If it were abstract.
if it were abstract? Exactly. So actually pretty complicated question without realizing it. Great job. Now again, here's some essential details if you want to grab them. Great keyword summary. Base, we use that keyword to access the base class. Virtual allows it to be overridden. Sealed prevents it from being overridden. New replaces, let's see, when used as a modifier, this hides a base class member. The new member replaces the implementation in the base class. This is different than the new operator and used to instantiate an object. Override, required to replace an inherited member. So very, very good. Got that stuff. Okay, Alex, can you read this one for us about encapsulation?
Victor has done a great job designing software to customize Tailspin Toys robotic cell. So great, in fact, that his boss wants to give him a promotion. Unfortunately, this means Victor won't be able to finish writing his software himself. Instead, a new developer will take over the project. On the new developer's first day, however, she accidentally sets the robot's age to 23 and crashes the program. To ensure the new developer doesn't change code that already works, Victor decides to black box the code he's already implemented. That means the new developer won't be able to see Victor's code, but will be able to use it as she continues the project. Victor can also ensure the values are checked before any changes are made, so that a dog doesn't end up with a negative age. Victor has implemented several methods in the dog class that he uses for bark, such as open mouth, close mouth. He doesn't want the methods to be called by any derived class, which access modifier should he use for these black box methods. I would probably say, in the case of if he's wanting to keep them and he's wanting to derive them, he doesn't want them to be derived. I would probably say it's definitely not public. It would be either protected or private.
Would protected keep them from accessing it? No,
No,
because
it'd
they
be
can.
private.
So it'd be private.
Yeah.
Everybody agree?
Yep.
Okay, that's an important one because there's a lot of questions that go along with those things. And remember this term black boxed, that is kind of encased these methods in privacy so that they can't be accessed outside of that black box.
Protected just means
Mhm.
it won't. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Keep going.
Okay. Victor's primary methods, bark, sit, walk, and wag tail, should be accessible from anywhere in this project. Which access modifier should he use for these methods? I would probably say probably protected. No,
What do you guys think?
probably
It's gonna be
not.
public.
Public?
Yeah.
What about number 3?
Okay, which of the following provides a means for reading and or modifying private attributes?
What are they talking about with private attributes?
They're
What are
referring to the they're referring to those variables they made private.
right? Our class fields.
The class.
And so how do we expose those class fields to others?
A constructor?
Nope.
No, not a constructor.
Anybody? Property? That's our properties, right? So remember, we're just looking at a little bit of different terminology, so just think about what things mean, because we're still talking about the same ideas. Okay, so our essential details, this black boxing is our encapsulation, keeping things hidden from others so that they don't have to worry about the details, but they can use our functions, our code. Instance variables, our attributes or fields, should be given the most restrictive accessibility level possible. Normally private. Instance variables of base classes are often defined as protected. This allows derived classes to access the data. And one important reason for restricting access to data is to ensure validity when data is changed. So we can make sure that we don't accept invalid data. Okay, update your notes for all of that stuff, and that's it for that one. The rest of your time is for working on your group project or your final.